Hey, we're back at the top again today with another video dropping your way. That's not a new intro, it's just what I wrote. We all have our favorite Pokemon. We know about mostly every Pokemon, but there are things hidden between the lines about the Pokemon we know and love. So many things that they become completely useless trivia that's interesting to hear once, but then you're thinking, enough, can we just get to the point? So today, we will begin a new series going over useless facts about every Pokemon line. Today, we'll be starting with the first Pokemon's line, or is it? I don't know. The Bulbasaur line. Get your unnecessary pants and get ready for the 10 useless facts about the first ever grass starter in history. Now, Bulbasaur is a grass-type Pokemon, but we already know that. Though, do you know what it's based off of? Well, all three stages of the Bulbasaur line seem to be based off of reptiles. More specifically, mammal-like reptiles known as Decenodonts, from the Permian period. The weird thing about this is that in 2012, I named my Venusaur in Fire Red Demetro, thinking it was based off of a Dimetrodon. Well, I don't know why that is. Meanwhile, its other starter folk, all 20 of them, evolve in or around the same area as each other. Bulbasaur evolves level 16, a trait it shares with 10 other starters, while Ivysaur evolves into Venusaur at level 32, a trait that is shared by only 2 other starters. Coincidentally, they are also the grass starters Chikorita and Turtwig. The point I'm trying to make is, the Bulbasaur line only shares these evolution requirements with 1 other starter. Again, the grass-type starter from the very next generation, Chikorita. Since then, the other grass starters have had a mind of their own when it comes to evolution. Did you know that in Generation 5, they added in a censored list preventing Pokemon with nicknames containing vulgarity to be traded on the GTS? Well, an unforeseen problem came out of this, where Pokemon with their actual names were getting flagged. This problem affected the entire Bulbasaur line, as the word Sau, I think that's how it's pronounced, was getting flagged. Sau, German for pig or swine, is contained in all 3 stages of this line. For a while, you would need to nickname it to trade it, but in this day and age, they have added an exception. Speaking of fat hogs, Venusaur is no exception. Venusaur would make Lil Wayne proud, standing at 6 foot 7 foot. I think that's how the song goes. And weighing in at 220.5 pounds. The interesting thing here is that matches the exact height and weight of a fellow grass-type Pokemon, Tropius. I guess the grass types like to share a lot of things, don't it? Now there's 4 Pokemon that claim to be the first Pokemon in existence. Rhydon, Mew, Arceus, and Bulbasaur. Each claim has a completely viable reason to why it is the first Pokemon. Using mythological reasons, coding, or Pokedex order, each of these claims do make sense. What Bulbasaur does own is the index number of 001 in the Pokedex. It has to be the first Pokemon. Well, maybe. Nobody really knows who it is completely, but Bulbasaur has been an option since the dispute began. Speaking of first Pokemon, the Bulbasaur line is the first Pokemon line to have each member appear once in every single game of the Super Smash Bros. Series. Bulbasaur appears as a random trophy in Smash 64 and Melee. Ivysaur is, of course, a playable character as one of the 3 Pokemon controlled by the Pokemon Trainer in Brawl, and is a trophy in Smash 4. Venusaur appears as a stage hazard in the Saffron City stage in Smash 64, and appears as one of the Pokemon in the Pokeball item in Melee. And Mega Venusaur appears as a trophy in Smash 4. This fact, of course, not including single-stage lines such as Tauros or Kangaskhan. I'm not just talking about the main series games here. I mean, I even brought up the Smash Bros. Series. However, these facts can also breach into the anime as well. For example, Bulbasaur is the only starter to be owned by 3 main or supporting characters. Of course, you know about Ash's Bulbasaur in the first few seasons, but May also owned one during the Advanced series. Later on, Shauna owned an Ivysaur in the X and Y series, and while she wasn't the main character, it still counts in this scenario as the tiebreaker between Bulbasaur and Cyndaquil, as the latter was owned by both Ash and Dawn. Here's the thing though, during the anime, Ash never evolved as Bulbasaur. May's evolved off-screen, and so does Shauna's. The interesting thing that comes into play here is in its Pokedex entries. Most of them virtually say the same thing. I'll throw you some of them. In its Fire Red entry, it states, there is a plant seed on its back right from the day this Pokemon is born. the seed slowly grows larger. And in its most recent entry in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it states, there is a seed on its back. By soaking up the sun's rays, the seed grows progressively larger. It's interesting that it says that as the same plant fully develops once it evolves into Venusaur, and even more when it gets to Omega Venusaur. Everyone loves dual types on starters, unless said starter is firefighting and your name isn't Blaziken and to a lesser extent Infernape. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're talking about the first stage. For 21 long years, Bulbasaur was the only first stage starter that was a dual typing, of Grass Poison to be specific. The other 17 starters were single typed as Grass, Fire, or Water. That was until 2017, where Rowlet came to town in Pokemon Sun and Moon, as it was Grass Flying. Well, I mean, there aren't any first stage dual type Fire or Water starters yet. Get to it, Gen 8! But let's come back 2 generations to Generation 6. No need to cover a generation that's still probably under the GameFreak microscope. With the introduction of Mega Evolutions, Venusaur was among the lucky few to get one, retaining the Grass-Poison type combination while also gaining the ability of Thick Fat. Mega Venusaur actually has the least amount of weaknesses in the game for any Grass type, being weak to only Flying and Psychic. I mean, if you want to get technical, Ferrothorn has the same amount of weaknesses with 2, however, where Venusaur wins the tiebreaker is in Ferrothorn's Fire weakness, where it's quad weak to said type. And with that, those are 10 useless facts that you probably will forget in a few wait, what was this video about? I seem to have forgotten. Well, it must have been important, so let's end this generically. Let me know who you want me to cover next as we keep the uselessness coming. If you enjoyed, don't forget to drop a like from the top and subscribe for all the uselessness I can provide, because without your support, I'll become useful again. With that, I want to thank you for watching. I'll catch you back at the top later on, because that's how we do what.